Um, $43.8 billion in revenue
Yeah.
for a single quarter.
Hey, that's a massive number.
I mean, that is an 88% jump year over year. But uh, if that headline number doesn't make you do a double take, this one definitely will.
The guidance, right.
Exactly. Management just raised their full-year revenue guide by $27 billion in one quarter.
Which is just, it's unheard of.
Right. So we are looking at Dell Technologies' Q1 fiscal year 2027 earnings report today. And I have to say, the numbers jumping off these SEC filings and the earnings call transcripts, they're completely divorced from the image most people have of this company.
Oh, totally.
When you hear Dell, you probably picture like a chunky black plastic desktop tower sitting under a dorm room desk in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah, running a wired mouse and a 40-pound monitor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the company printing these financial results is selling nation-states and massive global enterprises the physical picks and shovels of the AI gold rush. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the hidden metrics driving the entire AI infrastructure boom, we really have to understand how a legacy hardware builder morphed into just an absolute juggernaut.
It really requires a complete mental pivot. You can't analyze this quarter's numbers through a traditional utility computing lens. You just can't.
Right.
The market is pricing in a structural shift in global computing architecture, and Dell just happens to be the primary general contractor building that infrastructure.
Right, but before we get into the physical nuts and bolts of what they're actually building, we need to address this bizarre mathematical disconnect in their timeline.
The 5-year paradox.
Yes, the 5-year paradox.
Yeah.
Because 5 years ago, Dell's stock was trading around, what, $45 a share?
Somewhere around there.
And at the regular close of this reporting period, it hit $317. That is roughly a 611% return.
It's a monster run.
It is. Yet, when you look at their trailing 12-month operating profit, in that exact same 5-year window, it only grew 11%.
Yeah.
From $11.4 billion to $12.6 billion. So, I mean, an 11% profit bump, but a 600+% stock explosion.
Well, what's fascinating here is the mechanics of a market re-rating.
Okay, explain that for me.
Particularly how Wall Street models forward-looking total addressable market, or, TAM. You're looking at that 11% profit growth as a flat metric, but you have to look at the composition and the velocity of it.
Meaning when it actually happened?
Exactly. Almost all of that profit growth, about $3.4 billion of it, materialized in just the last 4 quarters.
Wow. So it was effectively flatlined for 4 years as a legacy business, and then the AI catalyst hit.
Right. 5 years ago, Dell's AI server revenue was a rounding error. I mean, it basically didn't exist. Now, they've just printed $24.4 billion in Q1 AI orders alone.
Just in Q1.
Yeah. And they built up a record $51.3 billion AI backlog. And on top of that, they raised their full-year AI server revenue guidance to $60 billion.
That's a huge jump.
It is. Historically, Dell was a cyclical box builder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Investors would slap an 8 to 14 price-to-earnings multiple on cyclical hardware because it's unpredictable and low margins.
Sure.
But today, the market is treating them as an AI infrastructure platform. So they're dragging that multiple up to a 19 PE. They aren't paying for the last 5 years. They are paying for a franchise that literally didn't exist 30 months ago.
I mean, I understand the forward-looking TAM argument, but let me push back on this re-rating logic for a second.
Go for it.
Wait, if I bought a coffee shop, right, and its actual profits only went up 11% over 5 years, but its valuation went up 600% because I said I was going to start selling, I don't know, AI coffee, isn't that just a bubble? How is a 19 PE justified when the actual cash flow hasn't caught up to the narrative yet?
That tension is exactly the central debate among institutional investors right now. The justification for that 19 PE really comes down to the backlog momentum and, importantly, the spillover effect.
The spillover effect.
Yeah. If you look inside their Infrastructure Solutions Group ISG, the data supports the bullish case. ISG hit $29 billion this quarter. That is up 181% year over year.
Which is massive.
And yes, AI servers were 16.1 billion of that, which is real tangible revenue. But the real justification for the multiple is what's happening outside of the pure AI hardware.
Oh, you're talking about the traditional server.
Exactly.
Because this was the statistic in the research that actually made me stop and reread the page. Traditional non-AI server and networking revenue grew 92% year over year to a record $8.5 billion.
Right.
In the middle of an AI frenzy, enterprise customers are buying double the amount of legacy servers. What is the physical mechanism driving that?
So there are two distinct mechanisms at play here. First is just a brutal physical reality of data center management, thermal and density limits. Dell is currently riding a massive replacement cycle. The old standard in these data centers is the 14th generation PowerEdge server, which is now about 8 years old.
Okay, so it's aging out.
Right. And Dell's new 18th generation PowerEdge server offers a 13-to-1 consolidation ratio.
Wait, 13 to 1. So, like, a data center can unplug 13 full racks of old servers and replace them with a single new one?
Yes.
How is that mathematically possible without the new server just melting through the floor?
It comes down to compute density and Moore's law compounding over those 8 years. The core counts on modern CPUs have just exploded, and the virtualization software that slices up those cores is incredibly efficient now.
Okay.
So yeah, one new physical box can handle the workload of 13 old ones. If you manage a data center, your biggest constraints aren't usually buying the servers.
It's the space.
It's the physical floor space. It's the megawatts of power you're allowed to draw from the local grid. And it's the sheer volume of chilled water or air conditioning needed to stop the room from overheating. Consolidating 13 to 1 frees up massive power envelopes.
And I imagine they need to free up those power envelopes specifically so they can plug in the new, incredibly power-hungry AI servers.
Precisely. Which brings us to the second mechanism driving traditional server sales, which is AI drag.
AI drag.
Yeah. This is where we get into the deployment of autonomous agentic AI.
Right. The sources mention agentic AI heavily. Break down how that actually drags traditional hardware sales. Because if a company wants AI, should they just buy the AI servers and be done with it?
You'd think so, but it's because of the difference between training an AI model and executing an AI workflow.
Oh.
AI models are essentially giant prediction engines.
Right.
The heavy lifting, the training part happens on those massive GPU-dense AI servers, but agentic AI implies the AI is taking action. Let's say an enterprise deploys an AI agent to handle customer service. The AI model figures out what the customer wants, but it still needs to query a traditional SQL database to check inventory.
Oh, I see.
It needs to interface with a legacy CRM to update the account, and it needs to generate a traditional email to send back.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the AI is just the brain. It still needs traditional computing infrastructure to act as the hands.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, it's like going out and buying a massive state-of-the-art 8K television. That's your AI server. You bring it home, and the picture is amazing.
Right.
But suddenly you realize your old Wi-Fi router can't stream the data fast enough.
Yeah.
Your old speakers sound terrible compared to the visual quality, and your current media console can't even hold the weight of the TV.
It's a total bottleneck.
Exactly. Buying the one advanced piece of tech forces a mandatory sweeping upgrade of your entire living room just to prevent those bottlenecks.
I take that analogy a step further, honestly. It's not just your living room. It's the infrastructure feeding your house. The AI brain operates so quickly that it overwhelms the legacy infrastructure trying to feed it data. Every enterprise AI deployment drags a massive amount of traditional CPU inference workloads with it.
Wow.
And we see this heavily reflected in Dell's Client Solutions Group, their PC business. They hit a record $14.6 billion. Commercial PCs, business laptops and desktops were up 18%, marking their 7th straight quarter of growth.
So the whole ecosystem is being dragged upward. They have staggeringly high volume across both ISG and CSG. It sounds bulletproof.
It does.
But reviewing the analyst notes in our sources, there's a serious catch. Despite the 88% top-line growth and the massive backlog, financial analysts rate Dell's economic moat as narrow, not wide, narrow.
Yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the vulnerability is exposed in the gross margins. Volume is great, but you have to look at how much profit they keep on every dollar they bring in. Dell's blended gross margin actually dropped to 18.1% this quarter. That's down from 21.1% a year ago.
I'm looking at these numbers, and I had to challenge this narrow moat rating.
Okay, let's hear it.
Dell is the undisputed #1 AI server vendor on Earth right now. They have over 5,000 AI customers, which is a metric that grew 50% in just 6 months.
True.
They have sticky, highly differentiated intellectual property in their data storage lines, like PowerMax and PowerStore, which are growing consecutively. They have an internal financing arm that allows massive customers to afford these rollouts.
Yeah.
How does all of that infrastructure not constitute a wide moat?
Because of the leverage dynamic with NVIDIA.
NVIDIA.
Yeah. The drop in blended gross margin is directly tied to the unit economics of AI servers. While these servers cost millions of dollars and drive top-line revenue through the roof, they operate at mid-single-digit operating margins. The hardware is increasingly commoditized.
Commoditized. But these are the most advanced machines ever built.
The chips inside them are the most advanced machines ever built.
Ah.
But NVIDIA doesn't just sell the GPU chip. They mandate the reference architecture, they design the HGX baseboard, they dictate the NVLink interconnects, and they lay out exactly how the thermals must be managed.
So they control the whole blueprint.
Exactly. NVIDIA essentially hands Dell, HPC, Supermicro, and Lenovo the exact same blueprint. Dell is taking a low-margin markup for bending the sheet metal, designing the cooling chassis, and handling the global logistics.
So despite having a world-class supply chain, their pricing power is fundamentally capped because they're basically just building from NVIDIA's IKEA instructions.
That's the perfect way to put it. That's the margin squeeze. As these low-margin AI servers rise to become a larger piece of the pie, and they are currently tracking toward 36% of total revenue, Dell's blended gross margin faces a heavy structural headwind.
Right.
The absolute pile of dollars they make is growing, but the percentage of profit they keep is shrinking.
Okay, if the margin per box is heavily compressed by NVIDIA, the classic retail solution is volume. You just sell more boxes. Turn the crank faster to make up the difference in absolute cash.
You would think so, but Dell can't.
Why not?
They have run headfirst into a brutal physical ceiling. Management noted that their pipeline of unsigned demand is multiples of their $51 billion backlog. The constraint is not demand.
So what is it?
The constraint is pure, unyielding supply.
And it's not the GPUs that are the primary bottleneck, right? The transcripts point to memory.
Yes. Specifically, DRAM, high bandwidth memory, or HBM and NAND flash storage. After memory, the supply chain chokes on CPUs and then hard drives. The lead times for leading-edge components are now 12 months out.
A full year. Why is memory the choke point? If they can get the incredibly complex NVIDIA GPUs, why are they waiting a year for memory chips?
Because of how AI models process data. Traditional computing can fetch data from a separate memory stick on the motherboard, but AI models require massive parallel processing of data instantly. If the GPU has to wait a microsecond for data, it idles, and that wastes millions of dollars of compute time.
Wow.
So high bandwidth memory has to be physically stacked, literally 3D stacked layers of memory chips, and packaged directly onto the same silicon interposer as the GPU.
That sounds incredibly complex.
It is. The bottleneck isn't just manufacturing the memory, it's the highly specialized, slow packaging process at facilities like TSMC. This extreme demand for HBM is eating up all the global fabrication capacity, which squeezes the supply of traditional DRAM.
Which gives us the mechanical proof found in Dell's forward guidance.
Right.
Because historically, Dell's revenue split between the first half of the fiscal year and the second half is 52 to 48. They usually recognize slightly more revenue in the front half.
Ugly.
But the supply chain constraint is so severe that management guided for a 48 to 52 ratio this year. They physically cannot source the components to build the servers fast enough in the first half of the year.
Exactly. It's a mechanical flip caused by the supply ceiling.
And this raises an important question about how the enterprise market is reacting to this shortage. If you are a neo-cloud provider, one of these AI-native hyperscalers, or a sovereign nation building a localized AI grid, you can't just pause your geopolitical or corporate strategy for 12 months waiting for HBM to arrive.
They aren't pausing. The market reaction is full-blown panic.
Panic.
Yeah, we are seeing customers sign 3 to 5 year binding arrangements to lock in supply. The fear of component inflation next year is driving them to hoard capacity right now.
And we've seen how dangerous inflationary pricing can be for Dell's immediate metrics.
Oh, definitely.
Because management admitted on the call that their CSG operating income rate, the PC side, is going to drop from 8% to roughly 6% in Q2, specifically because they raised prices a little too early, trying to front-run component inflation, and it just choked off demand.
Yeah, they moved too fast on that.
But looking at the broader enterprise side, this panic buying behavior worries me. If every major customer is locking in 5-year contracts today, aren't we just cannibalizing the future?
How do you mean?
Well, is this multi-year capacity land grab just pulling all the natural infrastructure demand from 2028 and forcing it into 2027?
The risk of a buy-ahead hangover is very real. If you pull demand forward, eventually you face a cliff. The data centers get built, the power grids tap out, the servers are installed, and the buying abruptly stops.
Right, which would be a disaster for that 19 PE.
But, however, the bullish counterargument is that AI models scale exponentially. GPT-5 or its equivalents will require exponentially more compute than current models. Therefore, this isn't a one-time build-out that gets pulled forward, but rather the establishment of a permanent, continuously rising plateau of infrastructure spending.
It's the ultimate high-stakes gamble on the pace of software evolution. Let's synthesize everything we've pulled from these filings.
Okay.
Dell achieved a perfect 6 of 6 on the financial scorecard we trapped in the sources. They hit every target for revenue growth, profit acceleration, and debt leverage for the first time in company history.
It's a huge milestone.
It is. They returned $2.1 billion to shareholders in Q1 and have an effectively endless backlog.
But that success is currently priced at a 19 times PE ratio, which is a significant premium for a hardware assembler.
Right. The critical asymmetry for you to understand is this. If Dell can negotiate better economics, or if the commoditization of the AI hardware eases, allowing them to expand those mid-single-digit margins as the market matures, then buying the stock at a 19 multiple today is an absolute bargain.
But if global memory supply stays choked, component costs stay inflationary, and Dell remains trapped, acting as a low-margin assembly arm for NVIDIA's reference architecture, then 19 times earnings for this company is exceptionally rich.
So what does this all mean? It means the narrative of the AI boom has officially entered a new phase.
Yeah.
Over the last year, the defining question was simply, who has the AI demand?
And today, the answer is everyone.
Right. The defining question now is, who can actually squeeze a reliable profit out of building the physical hardware?
It's the harsh transition from the hype cycle into the execution cycle.
Exactly. And I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over, building on a specific detail buried in the product announcements. The sources briefly mentioned Dell's new Pro Max systems, the GB10 and GB300.
Oh, yeah.
These are highly specialized systems designed to bring AI directly to the desktop.
Which perfectly aligns with the agentic AI drag we discussed earlier.
Yes, but think about the bottleneck implications here. If the massive hyperscaler server farms are totally constrained by global memory supply chains, and they can't physically draw enough grid power to scale further,
Right.
and Dell's margins on those data center boxes are terrible anyway, will the true profit explosion for hardware companies bypass the data center entirely? Over the next 5 years, could the real margin expansion come from forcing every single enterprise worker to buy a high-margin, AI-native PC for their home desk, effectively distributing the compute load out to the edge?
It's a compelling thesis. Bypassing the data center bottlenecks by pushing the processing power directly to the end user?
Which means after billions of dollars and years of complex AI evolution, the most lucrative piece of real estate in the tech world might end up being exactly where we started.
Yeah.
Sitting quietly underneath a dorm room desk. As a quick reminder, this deep dive is for educational purposes only and is not investment advice. Always do your own research. Thanks for joining us as we unpack the numbers, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.